everyone, Zabor here. So I came across this article on Pathos, and this is a couple years ago. It's basically like tricks of the devil and shit. It's all bullshit. So I'm gonna have to take this in parts, and I do apologize, just because I got really angry reading this. So I will string it all together once I'm done recording, but I may have to take breaks just because I'm pretty fumed. So I'm gonna read it, or I'm gonna read parts of it just so you kind of get the gist. But here we go. Satan is a snake. Remember that. Okay, so first of all, the only reason that people associate Satan with the snake is because in the garden in Genesis, there was the talking snake, and then in Revelation, they talk about that old serpent being Satan, except it's that old serpent with 7 heads, which is never mentioned in Genesis. So the fact that Satan is a serpent is based on the first book and the last book, and they don't actually match up in account. So, yeah, let's just move on from that. He is a liar and the father of lies, except in the story of Genesis, Satan is the only one that told the truth. God lied. He said that if you eat of the tree of knowledge, then you shall surely die. Only Adam and Eve didn't die. They were simply cast out of heaven. Now, a lot of people want to equate this with being they're no longer immortal and all that stuff, but we know that's not true either because there have been dinosaurs found with cancer. So unless Adam and Eve are living with dinosaurs cancer free until the fall, that's a lot of lies too. Blah blah blah, he's gonna tempt you, blah blah blah. Okay, here we go. So number 1, relativism. Relativism is the idea that there is no such thing as truth. The devil doesn't want you to believe in truth because if there is not truth, then there is also no right and wrong, and if there is no right and wrong, then anything goes. He can tempt you into sin much more easily if he can first get you to believe that there is no such thing as sin. Okay, so there's a little bit of a false dichotomy fallacy going on here in this first one, but there's also an underlying question, which is, if you don't believe in my God, where do you get your morals? Now, I've often heard this from creationists of all sorts, pagan or otherwise, mostly Christian, but I digress. The implication here is, again, without their God, people would just be raping and killing, and we know that's just not true. Otherwise, famous atheists like Carl Sagan would have been out doing that, and they don't. And we do have counts of Catholic priests raping all kinds of children all the time. How many evangelical preachers have been caught with underage hookers and cocaine? A fuck ton, right? So, we get our morals from evolution because we are social creatures. And in a social structure, those that promote the group over themselves tend to live long lives within the society and be protected, and those that seek to harm the society are ostracized, kicked out, killed, whatever, and they don't get to go on and reproduce and continue the cycle. Now, I really like how Scott Clifton kind of defines morality, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you what that is. He says that a particular action or choice is moral if it somehow promotes happiness, well-being, or health, or if it somehow reduces unnecessary harm or suffering, or both. A particular action is immoral if it somehow diminishes happiness, well-being, or health, or if it somehow causes unnecessary harm or suffering, or both. So that the idea that there is no truth is kind of silly because of course we have facts, we have truth, but our actions, our morality are subjective because it's based on the knowledge that we have on the situation, how we feel, what we know to be good or bad for the social society. So that's the first one here. Okay, number 2, indifferentism. This is an idea that all religions are pretty much the same and it doesn't matter which one you follow. Indifferentism is common within Protestantism. How often have you heard someone say, it doesn't matter what church you go to as long as you love Jesus? This indifferentism extends to multiculturalism as well. People say it doesn't matter if you are Hindu, Muslim, Jew, Sikh, Buddhist, Catholic, whatever. We are all climbing the same mountain but by different paths. Well, maybe so in a way, but some paths are better than others because they're more true, and to be honest, some of the paths are going down the mountain, not up. All right, so this is another logical fallacy, particularly the no true Scotsman fallacy, because it's an appeal to purity. Have you noticed that the author kind of points their finger at Protestants as if they're not real Christians, as well as other folk traditions that have been adopted into Christianity? Examples would include Bridget from Celtic mythology becoming a uh, saint associated with wells versus the goddess she was. There's also the Coptic Church, which throws flowers into the Nile River, or Santissima of Mexico, which became Saint Death, and these all have origins in paganism or pre-Christian religions. So they were adopted into the local Christian religion because that's what the locals did. That's what they knew to be true and stuff. Now, you really want to avoid logical fallacies whenever you're trying to make an argument because it can lead to false conclusions. So, don't be fallacious when you're trying to make a point like this. These just keep getting worse as I go on. All right, number 3, eclecticism. This is a close cousin of indifferentism. Eclecticism is the idea that you can mix and match different religions and spiritualities all together, kind of like those places where you make your own ice cream sundae. People think that it's possible because they have already subscribed to indifferentism. Think it through. You can't mix up Islam with Christianity or Buddhist spirituality with Catholic prayer. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is again a no true Scotsman fallacy, as I've already demonstrated, because there are Christian churches, particularly Catholicism, that have taken from folk traditions and religions. But it's also an argument from ignorance a little bit, because Islam does build off of Christianity, which is built off of Judaism, which came from Zoroastrianism and other traditions. It's all eclectic till it's a tradition, okay? So this is just fucking stupid. Sentimentalism. This is basing moral choices and belief choices based on emotion rather than eternal truths. It can be a good emotion or a bad emotion. You can get mad at someone or some choice someone has made, so you base your moral or faith decision on your anger. You might feel syrupy and nice about something, so you base your emotional choice on that. Here's an example. 2 guys want to get married, and you say, "Aw, Ronnie and Donnie are such nice guys. Why shouldn't they get married just like everyone else?" You're basing your decision on your emotion about Ronnie and Donnie. You desire to be a nice person and sentimental ideas about weddings and celebrations and big days. I'm gonna rant, and I apologize. Once again, morality can be a bit subjective because it's based upon what we have and we know. However, there is an objective view of morality, which we already covered, that we can get from talking to others. That way, it's not based off of feelings or personal interpretations. Not allowing Donnie and Ronnie to marry is immoral, just like rape and murder is. And if your belief in God is what's causing you to feel like you need to reverse what is objectively moral, then you are already an immoral fuckwit who needs to be ostracized from society before your diseased ideas spread to the rest of the group. This implies that the author doesn't know their Bible, or they know that the Bible promotes slavery, rape, genocide, infanticide, and a whole host of other immoral actions. This is not surprising, considering it was written by superstitious, primitive sheepshaggers 2,000 years ago. Utilitarianism. This is basing moral choices and belief choices only on what seems to be effective, efficient, and economical. Mom's in a rest home. She has dementia. It's expensive to keep her there. The doctors offer to give her an injection so her problems will be over. Don't do it. Utilitarianism is why we kill millions of babies through abortions. Okay, so let's just forget that the Bible promotes abortions. Once again, the author has shown that their knowledge of the Bible is limited, or they would have heard of the test of the unfaithful wife, which describes an abortion. So it also seems to imply that doctors just go around murdering people and ignoring the Hippocratic Oath because money. Uh, as an atheist, I understand that there is only this life. We only get one turn on the merry-go-round. So, the most horrible thing that I could do to another person would be to end somebody's life. Um, Now, however, religious people tend to believe that they're going to see their loved ones again in heaven. So, in all honesty, this kind of sounds like something a Christian would do and not an atheist. Incrementalism. This is just a long word for drip, drip, drip. In other words, the devil doesn't put his plan into place all at once. He takes over brick by brick. It is one little lie, then one little half-truth, then one more little lie, then one more little half-truth. Oh, you mean like this entire fucking article? Oh my god, I just can't anymore. This is just stupid. Materialism. I'm not talking about going to the mall to shop until you drop. That's a minor form of materialism. The deeper problem is the growing conviction that there is no supernatural realm. God, the angels, demons, heaven and hell, they're all just a myth. That's right. They are all just myths. And until you can prove that your God is real, then why should I give a fuck about his batshit crazy ideas in regards to morality? You're making the claim that God is real, and this is what he wants. Please demonstrate it, because I see no evidence, only claims, and appeals to feelings, which we know can be wrong. See, if I believe that my husband is cheating on me, that is not an indication that he is cheating on me, nor is it proof of his infidelity. This is shifting the burden of proof. You're saying that God is guilty of being real. I'm saying, prove it. My problem with this is basically they're saying that we shouldn't live in reality. This earth that we live on is what we know to be true. We can feel it, we can interact with it, other people can feel and interact with it, and we can talk to each other about what we've experienced to verify that what we are seeing and feeling is real. The atheist activist Aaron Raw in one of his videos said something like, does anybody see the ghost of Colonel Sanders in the corner over there? No? Just me? Well, that's an example of how we can demonstrate whether or not what we're experiencing is actually real. Okay? So, I'm okay with living in reality. Scientism. This is the idea that the only kind of truth you can know is scientific truth. Nobody states this as such. Scientists state this as such. It's a powerful lie of Satan because it's one of those things which is simply assumed in society. We all know that science has disproved the Bible, right? Yeah, that is right. Science has disproved the Bible, or at least the biblical stories, through meteorology, geology, paleontology, zoology, anthropology, archaeology, mythology, and even dendrochronology. And that's just with the one story of Noah's flood. Whales are not fish, bats are not birds, nor are they locusts. The global flood never happened. Snakes and donkeys don't talk, and snakes even have vestigial limbs sometimes because they carry the genes of ones having those limbs in their DNA. This is a product of evolution, not creationism. Why would God give snakes the genes of limbs if they're supposed to crawl on their belly the rest of their days? Because Satan was supposedly the serpent, right? Better yet, why is Satan walking around in Job a few books later? I guess Satan isn't the serpent after all. Now, there's so much more that I could go into, but I'm getting angry again, so we're just going to go ahead and move on from this. Situational ethics. This is another name for moral relativism, the idea that nothing is right or wrong except for the intentions and circumstances of the moral choice. So, we've kind of already covered this. We've covered morals, we've covered relativism, we've covered sentimentalism, we've covered utilitarianism, so there's no point in continuing on with number 9 here because we've already covered it and I'm just repeating myself and this video is getting rather long, so we're going to move on to 10. Universalism. This poison straight from hell is the idea that God is so loving, kind, and merciful that he won't send anyone to hell. In other words, everybody will be saved. This not only directly contradicts sacred scripture, but it contradicts all the teachings of the church for the last 2,000 years. So in this last post, they basically point out that their God is not moral after trying to bash us all over the head with their God's morality. So universalism would be the moral path if a God was real that was loving, kind, and merciful. He wouldn't send people to hell just because they didn't believe, because that is the one sin that is unforgivable, the crime of disbelief. So that means Hitler, after murdering everybody, is up in heaven because wasn't he a Catholic or something like that? He believed in Jesus. Therefore, he got forgiven for all of his sins and he's running around in heaven. Whereas the humanitarians who don't believe in God, well, they're all rotting in hell even though they're good people. If a God was loving, kind, just, and moral, then he wouldn't punish you for the crime of disbelief. He wouldn't punish you for stuff that you believed. He would base your life upon your actions. So in this post, they're basically saying that their God is not moral because he's got certain ideas about what is moral that we would find objectionable in any reasonable society. So I'm done with this. I've had enough. That is it for tonight, guys.